I'm going to fumble through this. It's only my first by myself, my second meeting as chair, so I apologize if I don't have the rules fully in line, but we'll figure this out. So I guess we should call the meeting to order.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I believe a quorum is present. So I'm going to ask the board members to introduce themselves, starting with our new attendee, Brian.
Hello, my name is Brian Wolf, and I will, starting May 1st, I will be the Assistant Commissioner for the Office of Land Quality. So I've been with the agency for 23 plus years, some of it in water, some of it in air, and now I started in land, and now I'm back in the land.
Hi, I'm Lauren Nielsen from Acuity Environmental Solutions, and I've been with Acuity for 3 years, but doing health work for close to 10 years now.
I'm Nancy King, I'm on council.
I'm Neves Vijay with Heartland Environmental, and I represent consulting industry.
Rob Mosier with National Gas, and I represent the
I'm Tom Navarre, and I'm with Family Express, and I represent the convenience store industry.
Mark Aldis, I'm here representing the property and casualty insurance industry.
All right, so I think we're in order, so we'll move on to the fund administrator's report.
Good afternoon. My name is Hillary Elderett. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for IDEM, here to present to you the Fund Administrator's Report ending March 30th, 2024. This first slide here shows the statement for the Excess Liability Trust Fund. We have paid out $4.8 million in claims year to date, and in total the fund has spent $8.5 million. The fund balance currently sits at $28.7 million for the revenue. Oh, sorry, the budget balance, sorry. And the total revenue collected for legal fund for both the excess liability and aviation combined is $32.5 million. This next report shows you the comparison of monthly revenue and claims paid out from the excess liability fund 52810. This fund has collected $31.9 million year to date and has paid out $4.8 million, as you can see, over the months through March. This next slide is the aviation fuel account. This is the new fund that was created this last biennial budget. We have received about $647,000 year to date. We have seen a sort of an increase in November and December, January, and have tapered down since then, but it's been relatively steady between $70,000 and $90,000 per month. And last but not least is the Petroleum Trust Fund statement. This is a snapshot year to date. We have spent $977,000, and the ending balance is $6.8 million. This is the conclusion for my portion of the presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
I got a question. On the fund balance of $202 million, where is that sitting? I mean, is there interest on that, or where does that go? And take it to the money market fund of some type, 4 or 5%?
Mm-hmm. So the investments are managed by the Treasurer of State. So that would be something to discuss with them in terms of investing, but the fund balance does remain within the legal fund that houses the administrative funds of the excess liability and the aviation fuel account.
So it doesn't go into this at all? That's not part of the 202?
The investment income, does that come back into the fund?
Yes, it comes back into it. Anything, it stays within that fund, or it comes back to it. Any money that's made off of the investments comes back to the fund.
Okay.
Is that just listed then as basically under revenue? It's not like line item?
It is not a line item. I can confirm any investments and what what has come back into the fund, if there is something available.
I think there is transparency in that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big number today.
Yeah.
It is. Any other questions?
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to, health updates.
Hello, members of the board. My name is Tim Beach. I am the petroleum branch chief. I would like to take a second to welcome Commissioner Robinson to our meeting today. For those of you that don't know him, the Commissioner of Item. Also would like to welcome Mr. Wolf to the board. He's got big shoes to fill from Peggy Dorsey, so look forward to working with him. Quick update from the legislative session. HE 1242, as part of the 50% reimbursement for USTG commissioning replacement, Indiana Code 1323-9-1.7 adds regulated ASTs as eligible for reimbursement for reinstallation where an eligible UST was decommissioned. In addition, these statutory changes allocated funds for each owner category that were not spent in the fiscal year to roll over to the next fiscal year. So if you remember, we've got a total of $20 million each year for this 50% reimbursement fund for owner sizes 1 through 12, getting $10 million, 13 through 100 tanks owned, $7.5 million, and those owning over 100 tanks, $2.5 million. Incidents reported this fiscal year, we have a total of 105. 91 of those have been confirmed, 14 are still suspected, either ready to be confirmed or deactivated, depending on the investigative work. Corrective action eligibility applications, we've received 57 this year and approved 37. Corrective action, health claims. So far this year, claims received and reviewed per month. The total, we have received 337 claims. We have reviewed 389. The total amount of requested is $11,535,415. Our average review time for the year is right around 48 days. Amount reviewed, $8,491. Amount approved, $5,247,728. Amount reimbursed, $4,244,663. So a couple of things.
Tim? Hello? This is Kevin Ryan. Just have a question for you, just from my understanding. Can you give me why March total amount requested is so much greater than any other month?
Yes, absolutely. I'll get to that. Thank you for that question, Mark. So in March, we received a $5.9 million for one incident over 2 claims submittals. So one of those claims was $5 million. So that's why you're seeing that.
Thank
that
you.
for the month. Yep, absolutely.
I have a question, Tim.
Yep.
I'm still concerned about the difference, and I don't understand. I know I ask this question every meeting, but why is it such a big difference between the amount reviewed and the amount approved? It's 75%. It seems to be that way all the time.
You're right, Tom. We do talk about this every meeting. And I think we've done our best job to explain that we can, but we do have some slides further in the presentation to kind of bring some light to that, I hope. So we'll get there, and hopefully if you have questions following that, we can talk. Corrective action health claims, administratively denied through tab 25. Those common denial reasons being missing signatures, discrepancies between FID and incident numbers, pay request totals that don't match invoice summaries and or applications, wrong versions of the form being utilized, those types of things. Struggling with this pointer today.
I have one quick question.
Yes,
So when
sir.
they do get denied for the reasons you just addressed, then do some of those get reapplied and they're just in the numbers of the applications getting reapplied for?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I get that, and so there's a resubmittal, okay, and they fix it, and there's a resubmittal and they fix it. So, but eventually, why does it still stay at 75%? I mean, it's consistently down, even though they're fixing this problem, that should keep raising it up as they fix the problem. But it never seems to change off.
Maybe let's get through a little bit more of the presentation.
All right.
We're gonna have some more of those answers for you, Tom.
Okay.
Sorry. Well, I lost my place here. UST decommissioning and replacement. I'm sorry, just not wanting to work for me. One more, yeah, sorry. All right, UST decommissioning and replacement self-eligibility applications. We've received 178, we've approved 159. We have done some reporting out on these numbers before, and the 178 represents unique facilities. So we have more applications that we've received and processed than that. That just means that one facility has sent us more than one application. Maybe we had been denied and they needed to correct, or sometimes we just get multiple applications for the same facility. So we've actually received 201 total applications, but at 178 unique facilities. All right, Kevin, I'm gonna let you drive. Thank you. USD decommissioning and replacement ELF claims to date. We have received a total of 7 claims. Total amount requested $559,832. We've reviewed 2 of those at the time of this publication. Average review time being 45 days. Amount reviewed 61,597. Amount approved 58,375. And then the amount reimbursed being 29,187. So take into account the 50%, we can only pay 50% of the amount approved. So those last 2 columns, the amount approved versus the amount reimbursed, that's going to be a 50% reduction in that amount approved.
So the amount requested, is that the whole amount, or is that 50% of the amount?
The amount requested is the entire amount, correct? Yes.
So somebody put in for $100, they're only gonna get 50 because it's at 50%, and that's
They're only going to get,
potentially get 50.
if $100 is approvable amount, yes.
Right, okay, so that is the total amount requested, okay, that's
Yes.
good, okay, gotcha.
I did a little looking this morning, since the publication of this document, we've now completed 5 of those claims, and we've paid out $220,952. And we've only paid out for those owner sizes 1 through 12 UST. So we haven't had any claims come in for the middle group or the higher group yet. We have administratively denied 2 of those 7 ELF claims, and those denials were due to not having UST closure approval that's required to review those claims. All right, Tom, here we're kind of keep getting the information hopefully that you're looking for. Common deductions and reimbursable amounts. So that first example there is deductible applied to the claim. So the eligible amount to be reimbursed was 58,000 and change, right? But the deductible has not been met yet, so that's $15,000. The total amount reimbursed is 43,480. So there's some of your monies, right? You always got the deductibles, right?
I get that there's a difference between the 5.2 and the 4.2. I get that's reimbursable or the deductible and all that. Yeah, I'm just talking about what was approved. So you and I get that amount reimbursed would be, cover that. Once it's approved, then you take the deductible off of that, and it's that kind of correct? I'm talking about the amount we viewed, the amount approved. And I'm not talking about the amount reimbursed. I get
That's
that
the next slide.
deductibles come out of that and all that other stuff. I'm talking about the amount that was approved is still only 75%.
All right.
That means you're denying 25% of the charge of the.
Right, and again, I think we cannot pay 100% of every claim. It just doesn't work, right? There are things that we cannot reimburse for. And again, if we can get through the rest of these slides, I think we're gonna address some of those issues.
So the number you approve is after the deductible.
Katie,
No,
the number approved is not after the deductible, correct?
it goes toward the deductible if it's approved. Otherwise, it doesn't count toward the
Correct, so
deductible.
it's
Right.
the amount approved, and then the deductible gets taken.
So the amount approved on the table, the amount reimbursed reflects the deductible taken out of it. So the deductible portion is printed on your far line, 4.2, with the 5.2 includes deductible, and then the amount reimbursed.
Yeah, gotcha. So that difference is the deductible.
That difference is
It's about practically, just about $1 million.
And I get the can't pay everything, that I get, I don't expect to be 100, but there's gotta be a disconnect between what the contractors are doing and what you're allowed to be approved. And that pretty much says there's a 25% disconnect somewhere, or let's say 20% disconnect, but there's a big disconnect between those two.
Right.
And that's like, I'm trying to figure out what that disconnect is between, they're going out and cleaning up the property, they're submitting a bill, and you're getting, well, they submit the bill.
Right,
So we
because there are
pay
certain
down.
things we can't pay for.
I get that, but 25% is a lot that you can't pay for. Now, what is it that they're doing that they can't get paid for, that they turn around and charge us?
So I think some of these additional examples might, again, help you get there.
The percentage eligibility.
So the next, let me get through this, please. The next example, eligibility percentage less than 100%. So again, the amount approved is the $30,000. However, their percentage reduction and reimbursement is 50%. We can only pay $15,000 there. Common denial reasons by task. So we get this a lot. Senior project manager rate claim for technical document preparation. In our rule, the project manager, this is a project manager task. So somebody's reimbursement at a higher rate than the rule allows for. So that's one example. 365-day denials. This example, ELF sent claim letter 5 on 10/5/2022. Accessibility Trust Fund received claim 8 addressing that denial on 1/3/2024. That is greater than the 365 days allowed in the rule. So again, we cannot reimburse for those costs. Next example, ineligible markup for mobilizations per mile, no markup allowed, they ask for markup. Other common denial reasons are just missing backup in general. So, I mean, Tom, I feel like, not only me, but John Morris, those before me, I've tried going through this and explaining this the best that we can. If you have additional questions or if you think that we can present it in a different manner to you, we're happy to do so. This was our attempt to kind of address some of that with you today, this time. But I'm absolutely open to hearing more from you. But, 100% reimbursement, again, is just never.
I get that.
Right. Okay. All right, I will hand it over to Colleen Renker regarding waste 0078 MPD update.
Thanks, Tim. Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Colleen Renker, and I'm going to talk today, go to the next slide, about the NPD. At the last board meeting, I did a brief presentation of a non-rule policy document update. Currently, this non-rule policy document does have a variety of task-based reimbursement options, and we proposed an update to expand those tasks. Per the statute, that non-rule policy update went out for public comment. We did receive 6 comments from 6 different parties. All of those comments are provided in your board packet and are available on the Financial Assurance Board website. As noted in the policy, this guidance is intended to provide a streamlined mechanism for reimbursement for many common phases of work. So as we talk about this, how do we go from X dollars requested and have 100% approval? We are trying to take that guesswork out of that, take this conversation out of there and say, here is what we will pay for these in a streamlined manner. And so that is noted in the policy, and as we plan to, or we amended it to add additional task-based reimbursement options to continue to provide that streamlined mechanism for more phases of work. So after those comments came in, we did make changes to that, and the final version of that non-rule policy document is also provided in your board packet and is available on the website. The next steps for this policy, so this is revision 1. This will be effective 30 days after presentation to the board, so we are doing that today to present this final version. As we've heard from everyone, we've heard from comments, and this isn't the last say in costs that'll get reimbursed from the ELF. So we do want to continue to collect data, to collect information, to look at contractor costs, to look at other things besides just labor for this task-based reimbursement that we provided, and continue to expand this. As you all know, our current ELF rule has been in draft for a while. We're working on a 2011 version of drilling rates. And so at our last FAB meeting, we tried to amend that with the approval from our commissioner to provide new drilling rates. With the voice from the outside saying we can't work for ELF rates. And so we provided that update effective immediately. As you'll notice in the final version, those are worked into this non-rule policy document, as well as a few other updates that I discussed at the last board meeting, a rate for well abandonment, an increased utility locate rate. And so those are included in this final version. And I know that inflation is real. I know that we can't go 13 years without updating rates in the future. Now, the final document that you've been provided does have those task-based calculated based on the rates of our labor as of today. Those rates will likely go up after we review the index June 1. And so after that update, these will be accommodated. We've shown you in this policy how we've come to that dollar amount. And so as those labor rates are adjusted based on the market value, these will be adjusted accordingly. And as we've done in the past, we'll issue an announcement so that those rates are made clear. I also wanted to talk a little bit about just how this can help improve our process improvement. We've heard from outside parties, how do we improve our processes so that we're not seeing so many costs submitted and denied? And we truly believe that we are working towards that. We want to hear your feedback. We want to take that feedback seriously. When we're looking at pre-approvals, we are working on how do we get a task pre-approved, and then when that claim comes in, we pay that pre-approved rate. We're not needing all of the extra backup documentation because we've already come to that agreement. And this NPD with these task-based rates speaks that same language. We don't need all of the backup to substantiate the little nitty-gritty pieces if we're using these rates that are agreed, and that's part of that streamlined process with this NPD. Now, this NPD also is just that, it is a guidance, it is a non-rule policy. And so this does not mean that this is the final say. You can charge more than these. You don't have to use those rates. If there's a justification that you'd like to provide in a claim, submit those in with those claims, and we're going to look at those as soon as they come in the door to review those rates that are coming in. Absolutely, not all sites are the same. We cannot come up with one rate and it will match every single site that has a release in the state of Indiana. So this is just our move towards working towards a streamlined process for those that are incurring costs, for those that are submitting claims, and for us that are reviewing claims. So I think that's all I have. The next thing, just my last bullet point here, is that with this NPD, we will be working on an update to our ELF form. We will be including tasks so that those are included in those forms. In the meantime, anything that is using these new NPD rates can be claimed as an other expense on the ELF claim application. And so we will expect to roll out an update when those rates update with their June 1st update. So that is all I have. Yes, yes.
No, go ahead. Oh,
So if I understand what you just said, if, let's just take this soil boring as an example. First one. So if a contractor would say, okay, we're gonna do a soil boring and you approve that, and they just send in a bill, and let's say they do within the 10 hours, they just send them an invoice for 1157 and you guys approve it, and they don't need to put the backup of who did what and all that other stuff?
Yeah, so there are requirements. So so I think are you looking at the planning and prep for
Right.
the soil boring?
Yeah, just.
Correct. So yeah, if you're planning for a soil boring event, that is that streamlined approach. We will pay that much to plan for that event. Same on the back end, we will plan that much for the report. Now that report needs to be submitted to IDEM. We
Right.
need to know that those costs were incurred. When we do have those field work, it is still the boring logs to show that, you know, how many wells were put in,
Right.
and which is also part of the rate, but that's the approach that we're working towards.
It can be much less detailed than it was in the past. Okay, but that might, this might take care of some of the 25%.
We're hoping to. Resubmit those, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, as I say, from the tank owner side, I applaud IDEM for these changes and working to get the program, like you said, it was 13 years in the making. But it also sounds like they're case by case, there's some flexibility, it's not just something that's set in stone.
Absolutely.
So that's great.
Absolutely, yeah, justification, we offer the pre-approval process. If you know going into a project that we can't do this for these rates, we have a pre-approval process. We are working to make sure that that works. I understand sometimes that we have some bumps in the road process-wise, but the pre-approval is an option. We also, if pre-approval is not sought, the justification in the claim will help us review that for when these rates do not work for a specific
Yeah,
site.
great. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
If the board doesn't have any other matters, we go to open forum. I was looking at Chris.
It's actually open to everybody, right?
Chris Braun raises his hand.
Chris Braun, we have Food Fuel Association. Appreciate the opportunity to speak, and you'll hear more, but I appreciate the efforts by IDEM to update rates and that sort of thing. But I want to go through specifically to tie in some numbers to policy and some legislation that's happened over the past year or two. So if you turn to the IDEM Lust Fund report, on page 1, you'll see what was appropriated this year was $37 million and change, and we're on pace to pay out about $6.5 million. So we'll end up with a $30 million surplus again this year. Currently, we already have a balance of $202 million. One of the thoughts and rationales behind the legislation over the past year was to come up with ways to properly utilize these funds to continue to clean up the environment, and also, if you recall, was to incentivize tank owners that have tanks that are 25, 30 years old to be proactive and incentivize them to pull the tanks out of the ground, clean up the site before we have a catastrophic release that we spend, you know, millions of dollars doing environmental cleanup as opposed to being proactive and removing the system. So the encouraging news is there's plenty of funding there, $202 million, and it looks like we're on pace to end up this fiscal year probably $225, $230 million balance. But then when you, if you would, when you turn to the from Tim Beach's presentation, turn to the page titled UST Decommissioning Replacement, eligibility applications. And as Tim indicated, they received 201 applications, 178 facilities, but 201 applications. The average tank pull to replace a UST system is about a $500,000 price tag. So when you start running the numbers, take 201 times $500,000, that's $100 million, of which, from a reimbursement standpoint, IDEM would be on the hook for paying $50 million. We right now have a cap under legislation where we only pay out $20 million. And the thought was that we would go back to the legislature this coming year, because it's going to be a budget year, and through the good work of Matt Norris and others, would be to demonstrate to the legislature that we have this it's very well received program, that we have, a $50 million number we need to hit. And right now we're capped at a $20 million payout. We want to show that the program is significantly oversubscribed. So what you see is, as Tim indicated, they received 178 applications to replace systems. They've approved 159. And from those, if I remember Tim's numbers before, well over 100 of those are from the mom and pop, so the folks who have 0 to 12 tanks. And for them, this is oftentimes, a make or break proposition. They have one station, maybe two stations, to go in and spend $500,000 or $1 million on two sites. They need to know that they're going to get reimbursed. And so one of the things that's concerning, if you flip to the next page, out of the first $559,000 submitted, $29,000 were reimbursed, which is about 5 cents on the dollar. That'll scare the bejesus out of these tank owners. They won't do it. They just want them to take that kind of risk. They're going to need to see a much more, and I realize we're in the infancy, and Tim indicated they've received some more and paid more, but they've got to see a track record where IDEM is pretty uniformly reimbursing 50% of the actual cost being incurred, and not getting nickel and dime because of their perhaps unfamiliarity with the program. And it's on the tank owners also and the consultants that are doing the work to make sure they're fluent in what's required. But we've got to be able to demonstrate and incentivize these folks and to encourage them to take on that risk, to take on a $250,000 net liability per site just on the tank full. And so to go back to Tom's point, if, when you go in and you do the tank full, let's say it's contaminated, and let's say you've got 100% eligibility, but if you're only receiving 60 or 70 or 75% of the eligible expenses, that's another cost beyond the 250 that they're just going to be very nervous and uncertain about whether they want to take on that risk. So we need to be able, again, to demonstrate to them. And the DUC was only a one-time hit. It's a $15,000 upfront. When you're submitting more and more claims, it's not $15,000 every claim. It's a one-time hit. So we would, again, part of what Tim and Colleen provide us, we take to the tank owners and we tell them, these are the facts, this is the data, to try to give them some peace of mind, some comfort, and encouraging them to be proactive in going out and taking their systems and upgrading them. So these numbers are important. And so anything we can do to provide that assurance, to show a track record where IDEM on the tank decommissioning is paying 50 cents on the dollar, on the tank, on the cleanups, they're getting close to 90-95% reimbursement. Because otherwise, we're going to have all these applications have approved and no one's going to want to move forward. So that's one piece of it. The second piece of it is, and again, I applaud IDEM on working to upgrade their cost guidelines. It's something that's been long overdue, and we appreciate very much. And our view is this is a first step, not the last step. And we view this more as the tax code, not the Bible, right? So Bible hasn't changed in a long time. Tax code changes every year. So our hope would be that the ELF cost guidance that has been put forth is simply a first step. It's sort of a tax code approach. And I've indicated to Tim and to Colleen, we would like to have an opportunity. We spent a lot of time, and I want to share with you, the Indiana Food and Fuel Association called upon the goodwill of a number of environmental consultants that have done literally hundreds and hundreds of environmental cleanups in Indiana. And we wanted to call upon their expertise to assist the IFFA, and we submitted comments, which I've just handed out, dated March 31 of this year in advance of the April 1 deadline that IDEM asked to receive comments. And what we did is we took IDEM's proposed cost guidance update, and we mirrored our comments to match up with each section. What was ultimately submitted and presented today it's sort of bits and pieces. It doesn't track exactly with what was presented before in terms of the scope of work, in terms of the breakdown of activities there. So one of the things that we would ask and ask the FAB to encourage this, and I'm confident that IDEM will, but we'd like to have IDEM to meet with our IFFA representatives, our environmental consultants, and so we compare apples to apples to make sure that the rates, the scope of work, the hours committed, et cetera, match up with reality. And one of the things that we mentioned in our 20-plus page comments was that IDEM, as Colleen indicated, these rates haven't been updated since 2011. So the historical data that IDEM will be relying upon is based on 2011 rates. And so if you're using that as sort of a guideline, they're going to be artificially low and dramatically low. And one of the things we did by encouraging a handful of environmental consultants was to develop a consensus for what we thought were reasonable rates. So it wasn't just one consultant's or one tank owner's experience. We took a blend of a number of comments to come up with what we thought were reasonable costs. And we were specific. We broke it down in terms of who would do the work, the number of hours, and the rates associated with each one. And again, IDEM, to their credit, they've moved in that direction with some of these. I don't think a single one ultimately ended up adopting any of our comments in terms of the dollar amounts. And again, we're happy to have discussion, but this is the other part of the equation that we have to provide comfort to incentivize these tank owners. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the tank fund is here to pay for environmental cleanups and cleanup sites. And I think we're very much aligned with IDEM on that. But we've got to get the missing pieces to give the comfort and the peace of mind to the regulated community, and in particular our members that are the tank owners, so that they feel comfortable that they can go out, replace the tank system, a $250,000 expense that they're either going to incur or take out a loan for, and then also the related environmental cleanup is going to get reimbursed at a high level. And we've seen a number of consultants that get 90, 95, 96%, which is great. We'd like to see that a little more uniformly. And again, it's on us, it's on the consultants, et cetera, to make sure we're fluent and we're not doing the things that Tim's indicated, where beyond the deductible, those things that are not self-inflicted, right? That we're putting in the proper documentation, that we're doing the proper amount of rates by the person doing the work, et cetera. So some of that is on us, but that's the challenge we've got right now is to convince these largely the smaller operators, and we're all in favor of doing that. I want to make sure that the implementation of these good-natured programs are implemented so that we can accomplish what we want to. Because as you can see, we could very easily burn through, $40–50 million of cleanup costs, which is why the fund is there. Then we go back to legislation next year and say, can you raise the caps so we can clean up more of these? But the problem is right now we've got a program that's oversubscribed, but it's not being implemented because of those reservations. So I want to share that with the board today and also with IDEM. And again, we've partnered with IDEM on a number of matters in the past, and I'm sure we will here. So I would just, again, I would leave it as suggested that the adoption of these cost guidelines is a very good first step. I think it will streamline some of the operations. It will make it more task-based billing. But there's still some kinks we need to work out that we would suggest maybe IDEM, a small working group in the next 30 days get together. I don't think, the people we're working with are very fluent in stuff. So it's not like it's really more coordinating calendars than just trying to understand expertise and experience. But we can pull together, a half dozen or more high quality environmental consultants with the tank owners, meet with IDEM, and let's go through to make sure that each of the categories we had back from March that we were commenting on, we're able to adopt and get all those implemented. So we're all in a consensus approach, which is what we've done historically. And IDEM's been a great partner with us. And we've typically developed a consensus and ultimately adopting whether it was non-rule policy or guidelines or anything else out there. So we're optimistic and confident that will happen again here. But that's, I want to share with you, that's the perspective from the IFFA.
I had a quick question. I actually did review this when it was, published to the FAB website, and I was wondering if you could help me understand one of these, the task C2C review of telemetry reports. was wondering what it was that was factored in those total hours per task.
And I've got a couple of consultants that are here to help put that together. Creek Run, I think American Environmental, Dan Forge is here. I don't know, Chris?
No.
We got a couple of consultants. If you want to come up and answer that would be helpful.
I'm not with it. That part.
I'll tell you, at the work group, we'll make sure we have everybody, Chris Wright, Creek Runs, American Environmental, you, Lauren, and others.
Lauren, what task is it?
It says
C2.
C.2.c. So it's toward the end of this.
Page numbers in C2, C2C,
B2?
C2,
C2.
C2C, here it is.
There it is.
I don't know if I can answer your question, but I'll try. What was the question again?
How did you come up with that breakdown of hours for this particular behavior or activity?
I can only say that if Creek Run put this one together, and I'm not sure whether we did or not, but if we did, it was based on previous sites that we've done. So we just kind of took an average historically over time.
Okay, well, I'm pretty certain that it was developed by Creek Run because this was basically verbatim in your comment letter. But it's difficult to take these suggestions seriously when something as trivial as a telemetry report that simply reports on whether the system is on and elapsed hour meters. That I also operate remediation and design remediation systems as an engineer. And the telemetry reports that I receive and have received over my decade of professional environmental engineering work is basically a fax that gets printed out and you look at it and then it says that it's running. So I would push back a little bit in these recommended hours when it's quite easy to call out.
Well, part of it is, it turns on the scope of work too. If you notice, for instance, they've got 10 hours for performing on-site remediation, maintenance, and repairs, for instance, and coordinating with repair vendor. So it's a line item. I mean, if those line items are not performed, obviously they wouldn't bill for that. It's not going to be 23 hours just because you get
Right.
the facts.
I know, it's just that I lose a little bit of confidence in that the vendors who offered comments understand the work involved.
Sure. And again, we certainly invite you to the work group as well, and we appreciate the value your input as well.
Yeah, we submitted a comment letter as well, and it looked like a lot of the comments that Acuity had proposed were indeed incorporated into the final version.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, just from the take owner side, I would echo your recommendation that we could continue dialogue with IDEM and continue on this journey. I think it's some great first steps.
Okay.
I agree with Trout.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Chris. I would say I agree with just about everything you had said in your comments, so I appreciate it. My name is Jason Lenz. I'm the CEO of Creek Run Environmental. I'm sorry, Lauren, if I didn't answer your question satisfactorily. Creek Run's located in Montpelier. It's a company that started 31 years ago in 1993. I was hoping Peggy would be here. I wanted to tell her thanks for her 30 years as a public servant. And I wish her all the best for retirement. And I saw the commissioners back. Thanks, Commissioner and Peggy and Colleen for helping get the NRPA task guidance document finalized and out the door. I believe that the publication of the document is a positive step in the right direction. It will provide a lot of us in this room that serve the tank owners guidance that handle the complexities of the health program. You know, it's a little bit unfortunate. It seems like there's always this kind of us against them mentality between consultants and IDEM, and I wish it wasn't. It shouldn't be. And it's not something that happens every day. It's just at different times. It's easy to blame the other guy. And, you know, that's kind of where we went at. But we all have to work together, all of us. We need the tank owners, we need the regulators, and I'd like to think that companies like Creek Run and Acuity and others provide a valuable service that is needed and necessary. And after doing this for 31 years, over 4,000 claims, reimbursement rate totaling 90%, over $50 million, and 289 no further action letters. So I think I have ran quite a few systems, and they have been successful to get to that number. I know I've been a good steward of the environment, and I've served my clients well. But all consultants have a right to get reimbursed for the work that they perform. Our education, knowledge, training, experience, timeliness, and efficiency, it's very tough to place a value on. And I respect the fact that IDEM's tried to do that. Faith, trust, and loyalty from our clients is what keeps a company like Creek Run and others in this room in business, not the Health Fund or IDEM. So again, I commend IDEM for the hard work that went into producing and getting the NRP document out the door. We, as consultants, should be appreciative. And if we do disagree, and we'll always disagree, you know, work through the process like Tom and Trout and others have recommended. And, you know, if we don't like it, the same doors are open to us that they are to everybody else. There's a statutory process. There'll be a legislative session in 2025. You know, we can all take our complaints there and see what happens. So let's all try to work together and have a common goal here. So thank you. And I'll take some questions if anybody has a question for me. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Anybody else? I'd just like to comment briefly. I guess I represent the environmental consulting industry on this board. This is a very good step that IDEM is making here with this NPD document. There's no question about it. And I think there is, while there's quite a bit of room to improve some of the dialogue between the tank owners and IDEM and the consulting industry, I think over the last year or so with the groups and the new policies being made, there's been a significant improvement from years past. So I think that should be commended on all sides, the tank owners, the IFAA, Chris's effort, Matt's efforts, and the consulting industry as well. I think whether it's Jason's group or Warren's group or our group, we worked pretty closely with the tank owners to try to educate and kind of improve the process. So while I'd say this is going to be a continual work in progress, right? It's always been a work in progress, but I think I've been doing this type of work for 25 years, and it's the market improvement in the last couple of years. I think, Jason, you'd probably agree, is definitely, yeah. Some of these meetings have been somewhat contentious from time to time, but I think there's definite positivity, in my opinion. I think the overall board seems to agree with me from that, I hope. So just wanted to opine on that matter. And
As a
that's
new
it, I
guy,
guess.
I say thank you. You know, not understanding the lingo and new to underground storage tanks, being a credit union guy. I thank you for the hard work and easy to understand. It really helped educate me a little bit more. I got a long way to go, but I just want to thank you for the hard work and appreciate your efforts.
And if that's it, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second. All right, got it. All in favor? We are adjourned.
Thank you.
I didn't fumble the rules, I don't think.
Nevis?
Yes.
TJ, you mentioned at one time when I first met you that I might have an opportunity to talk with you again someday. Like forward to on that. maybe buy you a cup of coffee and just to talk a little bit more and learn more? Would that be something you'd be open to?
Absolutely, Kevin. I believe you have my email address.
Yes, I do, and I will, could you give me your phone number?
Sure, can you hear me okay?
I need to